I drove over to Melbourne on Friday. Kingy rang me a couple of times. He said, you know what we should do on Monday? We should put together the most important question for the home and away season for every team. So we're doing that right now on our first thoughts. We're going to go one for one in alphabetical order. And let's just make sure we've got this right.
Yes.
You're going to start.
Jeez, I hope we got
I hope we've got this right. I hope.
So I've got Adelaide.
You've got Adelaide.
Yeah, it's a good start. It's a good start. It's a good start.
Good.
So some of these lean to the negative, some lean to the positive.
Correct.
So the Adelaide Crows.
I tried not to be naffs.
No.
I tried not to be negative at first sight.
This time of year, you can absorb a bit of positivity for a change. Can you get 50 from Filthy?
The Thrill Seeker.
Is it Riley time, and can he change the fortunes of this footy club? Because Isaac Rankin, in my opinion, is charging towards being the best player in the comp. Jordan Dawson, if you assess the last 4 years, he's rated 22nd in the AFL for absolute performance on ratings. They've got an opportunity to start the year really well. St Kilda at home, Essendon away, North Melbourne at home. He only played 7 games last year. He went 2-2, 3-2, 1-3 in terms of hitting the scoreboard. He's a different beast this year. He looks enormous. I feel like if he can kick 55 or more goals, they can finish top 4. They just need one more contributor forward of the ball.
It's a very good question, and I've got some strong thoughts on it. He's probably the player I'm most excited about this year, the thrill seeker of what he is capable of. But I'm not sure he can kick 55.
Why not?
If Walker's in the forward line with Fogarty.
But you're set up for this guy.
Yeah, but so this is my point with Taylor Walker. Can you set up for that guy when Walker is such a big presence and eyes are drawn because of who he is and because of who he's been and the influence he's had on the club? It's like the Franklin sort of theory at Sydney. All eyes are directed there at the expense of Thilthorpe and Fogarty. If you're going to go Fogarty, Thilthorpe and Walker, you become such an immobile forward line that's going to struggle to defend, particularly when the ball hits the deck and opposition teams are going to waltz the ball out of there. It's Fogarty's forward line. It's Thilthorpe's forward line.
No, it's Thilthorpe's. It's not even Fogarty's.
Well,
we've been teased for years by Fogarty.
He kicked 41. He kicked 41 last year.
41.
They've signed him for 7 years.
If you stand at full
he's in the
forward,
leadership
right,
group.
You get 20 given to you for the year, right?
But I want to see it. So this is a really interesting test case for Matthew Nicks. Is he going to go with 3 of the most, slowest and immobile forwards in the same forward line? It's a watch. Good question.
I'd love to see Walker at centre-half back and just give these young...
back?
Yeah, mate, he'd be a freak at centre-half back. A freak.
What, Finlayson style?
Well, he's the best kicker. He'd be the best kick in the Adelaide Crows team.
At 35, he's going to...
Well, I just think there's other options.
Okay.
It might be better than what's there at the moment.
All right, the Thrill Seeker. We're on Thilthorpe watch for 55. Brisbane, it's on a similar topic. Who steps up to fill the massive void left by Joe Danaher's 58 goals? And can Brisbane's forward line and second ruck division fire without the unique star? That's the question for Brisbane. I think they can. I think they can do it in different ways. I like Logan Morris. I'm not Eric Hipwood's biggest fan, so I'm not super confident that he's going to be able to fill that void, but I am confident in Archie. I'm confident in Lohman. I'm confident in Rayner. I'm confident in Bailey. Link McCarthy can play. They got options everywhere, so not for 1 second am I worried about Brisbane's ability to do it, but I still think that is the biggest question facing them this year.
Carlton, can you compete with the defence built with straw? And that sounds harsh, but even with Newman in there last year, they were
They're
fifth.
Fragile, aren't they?
They were the 5th worst points against. Now that's a profile that doesn't allow you to compete. I don't care how tough you are in the middle. I don't care how good your power forwards are. If your back 6 has question marks like this, then you're in real strife. Like Wiedering's been the All-Australian squad for the last 5 years. Total star. We understand that. But who's around him? There's a gap at centre-half back. We don't know who that is. Sard one-on-one, so gettable, it's not funny. The Ollie Holland experiment, I reckon, will last about 6 weeks with him at halfback. I just don't see that being viable. I like Silvani down there. I think that he's got some...
My man.
Something. Your man, Jack. We'll be interviewing him 4 times this year. He's got an opportunity. McGovern just misses too much footy, and we talk about that every year.
He went down again.
And he's 30 years of age now. Haynes, Is he still that same product? And you got Boyd and Cowan, who maybe they're going to be okay, but they need great support.
You've been worried about this for a while.
I have, and I just don't think that it's been seriously addressed. I mean, the Kemp I like as a player, but they're now playing him forward. I mean, I would have persisted with that. So I don't know if you can compete with the better teams in the competition with a defence that can't withstand serious heat.
Blues fans, can you compete with a defence that is made of straw? 0433 98 11 16. Collingwood, will the biggest risk of any team by pushing all of their chips in on experience pay off, or will it leave them busted and ruined for years to come? Kingy. The oldest team and most experienced team by a mile. They've got 20 players who have played 100-plus games. It looked good against Richmond, who is the worst team we've seen probably since 2011. But when it comes to winter, when you've got this experience, when there's sore bodies, when there's a couple of injuries to key players, when you're still playing Pendlebury on ball and so reliant on him and Howe, and these side bottom who's now going to spend some time on ball, I don't know which way it's going to go. I don't know. I got no idea, but the question is there for them. It's the biggest risk any team has taken. Will it pay off, or will it ruin them for years to come, and will they find themselves in a Richmond-like position in 2 or 3 years' time?
Like it. Oh, and maybe they will, but isn't it worth the punt?
Yeah, I'm not...
Would you, if you were Craig McRae, and congratulations for winning the big race on the weekend flight, if you were Craig McRae, at the end of season 2024, what would you have done?
I wouldn't have been as strong with my language about it. And I don't think I would have been as aggressive.
So what would you have done in terms of aggression?
I still would have gone to the draft in a way. So maybe you bring in one of the two. Maybe you don't go as aggressive, particularly with your language about the draft and with your actions in terms of trading everything away. That's probably more of the Geelong model, where you're still all in, but there is 5, 6, 7 under 25s are going to carry you for 10 years. Collingwood just have none of that.
Bombers, why do I have more confidence in Caddy and Kako than I have in Mackay and Shield? Why is that? Why forward of the ball am I more excited with these young kids when I look behind the footy and I've got the big dollars recruit in Mackay and Shields now getting the new role at halfback and ball in handy, looks terrific. Why am I like that? I mean, why aren't we just banking on the senior core talent at Essendon getting the job done? I mean, I worry with the Bombers. They do elevate the status of these young kids so quickly that they have to be the reason that you have success. I get they're going to be good players long term.
You think there's too much pressure on them too early?
But they're 19 years of age. Like, how many 19-year-olds really shift the course of your footy club? Not many. And you're asking two of them to do it straight away. So I'm just concerned with that. Shields missed a lot of footy, 8, 19, 12 and 9 games the last few years. Just in the back of my mind, I think, will he still be halfback post-bye this year? Will he still be playing this role? I don't know. Watching him on last Tuesday, there's a few he has a few moments.
He has a few fumbly moments,
just a couple of timid moments.
Yes, and his kick can let him down.
Well, that's not a great profile for a halfback. You don't have to be the bravest player to play at halfback. You can get away with that, but you've got to be an elite kick. And his speed does open the game up. I like that. But I just think if they're going to go from 11 wins to 14 or 15, that's the jump. That's the hardest jump in footy. From 11 to 15 is the toughest one. And I look at the Bombers and I think, okay, if it is to be, it's the senior leaders, and I love the fact that what Merritt is now doing centre forward is terrific, and the use of Martin at half forward is a boom for them, and I know Shield plays a role in that. But when will their performance levels match the talent levels? And I think that it starts with their senior players.
What's a pass mark for?
Well, they have to improve, which is they've gone 11 and 11, I think. So they have to be winning 13 games to be
on the cusp of the 8.
Yeah, it's been 3 years now, Brad, and has set the standards right. This is the year.
Ease up. I'm trying to get him on the program. Just Fremantle. There's a couple of teams that the question just solely revolves around the coach, and this is one of them. So the question is, will Justin let them play, and is he the right man for the job? That's the question, and that's what we're going to find out. We're going to find out this year. Otherwise, there'll be significant ramifications. As much as Sam Mitchell comes on the program and says, "You guys hate it when you guys speculate on coaches." Well, that's just the reality of it. At time, that's just the reality for some teams. Time gets you, and when you've got a list as good as theirs, you've got to let them play, which I liked last night. I think they're really aggressive, more aggressive with their willingness to bring the ball back through the middle of the ground and their high handball game. And you saw that last night. But they've got all the tools there. They've added to that. They're all in. Is he going to let them play? And is he the right man for the job? I think we'll find out by about round 13 or 14.
They do look to play with some expression now.
They did.
Yeah.
I thought off half back, like a couple of times Clark got the ball and he just all eyes through the middle. Tracy's got to start marking the ball. He's been disappointing with his pre-season. He gets his hands to that many balls but has been unable to mark them. But Amos and him and Jackson forward, the midfield is strong. Back six is good. Shea Bolton comes in, he's going to definitely be important. So they're ready to go. I would think top four is on the cards if things go well.
Yeah, they're the bolter, aren't they? And you look at the premiership market, they're about $12 or something. That's a good look. Not gamble responsibly, of course. And I think another good look for the premiership this year is the Geelong Football Club.
Right.
Having seen, and we're always critical of Geelong, we're always looking to tip them over the edge into that rebuild phase. They're not there. It's not happening. So the question for me, now that it's Max Holmes' midfield, is it premiership calibre? So if it is, right, so Dangerfield looks like he's going to spend a lion's share forward, a little bit of midfield time, obviously, but a lot forward, and Bailey Smith comes in, do you now have to revisit your thoughts on their whole stoppage game? Because they don't play the stoppage game. They play the counter-punch game with these half-forwards right up the ground and explode back. They've got very few holes in their profile. It's a terrific setup. It really is.
Is their midfield good enough to win it?
I think it is.
That's
now.
what you're asking. You think it is?
Yeah. What it does, it gives Chris Scott another asset to work with. I mean, in that midfield, Holmes is you touched on him the other day.
No, he's a top liner now. Yeah. But what is around him would be my concern.
Well, if you had Smith and then you've got the youngsters in Bruin had a very good year.
Is Bo's going to get it done?
Well, I'm not.
Is Atkins going to get it done?
I think Atkins is a good player.
That's the question.
But they've always done it without the midfield being
with the high forwards that come up and play almost like Close and Myers almost play as midfielders.
So you're blending in the youth right, of Bruin, Henry, Holmes are all 22. Humphreys at halfback I love. Dempsey on the wing we like, and we've touched on Shannon Neal a lot. So I think they're evolving right before our very eyes, but they're still in that. They're still in that window, third for experience, fifth for age. Max Holmes' midfield, I think now gives Chris Scott another asset. Gold
Coast, is it the start of a dynasty? Is it? That's the question.
Dynasty?
Is it the start of a dynasty?
What are you saying?
In 5 years' time, are we going to go, be careful what you wished for? Because they're absolutely ready to go. 2-9 away from home last year. How big is these two games, right? Round 2, West Coast away, is just so big for this football club to put your white shorts on, jump on a plane for 4 hours and go and beat a team that you should be beating by 6 goals. And then round 3, how big is round 3 Melbourne at MCG for Gold Coast? So they've got Essendon to start at home, right? They probably win that. Then you go to Perth, you jump on a plane for 4 hours. You've got a bye in round 2. Then you go to the MCG and beat Melbourne. We're going to get a really good look at Gold Coast early by around the first month of the season. But I think, as you've been saying for a long time, they want for nothing. They've got an easy draw. They get a top 5 player in every year through the draft. There's millions of them. Surely, now with Damien Hardwick, this is the start of something special for Gold Coast. The Giants, Kingy.
What if Jesse Hogan is just Jesse Hogan, not Jesse Carey? Like last year was an unbelievable year. One out of the box, 77 goals.
You think it was an outlier?
Well, what if it's an outlier? What if it is? 77 goals, best and fairest, All-Australian, Coleman. 49, 35 and 20 were the 3 previous years. So what if you lose 30 goals there? What if he's just a good player, not an absolute A++ like he was?
The package, Cadman, green.
They're not in the same stratosphere as what this bloke's been or was. And you look at the profile of the Giants, and really the bulk of their assets were about him, Jesse, in the forward 50. Their conversion at goal, it masked a lot of problems, and their pressure was elite. Outside of that, they were a pretty poor clearance team. Their forward 50 was just...
You're not sure about them?
Well, I just think if this guy is not the absolute beast forward of centre that he's been, does it expose the Giants to just some warts?
It's a good question. Hawthorn. Can they handle the heat that comes with being the AFL's new darlings, or will their swagger turn against them under the primetime spotlight? So the Hawks feature under lights 9 times in the first 15 weeks this season, headlined by the round 1 Friday night game against Essendon. They play one of 6 huge home games at the MCG, games against Carlton, Collingwood, Richmond, Melbourne, and the Brisbane Lions at the G. Can they handle it? Will the swagger be there? The opposition going to come hard for them. They're going to scout them harder than they did last year. And they know it. Everyone knows it. Let's see if they can handle it, the Hawks.
I like it. Can you handle the heat? You love Kenny, don't you? You're starting to mimic him now.
Kenny?
Can you handle the heat? Melbourne. Is falling in love again as simple as Simon says?
Yes.
Right.
Because he's told us they're back in love.
There's a lot of love. There's a lot of love.
Love everywhere.
Oh, I love you.
Oh, my goodness. Valentine's Day, Melbourne, every day.
Let's go with the positive. If they still have great elite talent. They have the tallest trump card in footy in Max Gorn. They've got a great defence and their contest work. When you see Oliver and Petrarca like we did on the weekend, you go, yep. I still think Van Rooyen, I know he had the back spasm on the weekend, will have a very good year. And Windsor may be the second best selection in the 23 draft.
He's a good player.
He's going to be a star, absolute star. And maybe only Harley Reid is better than him. If they haven't, if they can't fall in love again, meaningfully fall in love, not just say I love you, actually live I love you.
Yes.
Authentic love, not just the Valentine's, what are you doing tonight type scenario.
Not just a Tinder date,
no
proper
Tinder,
love.
No Tinder here, mate. If they're off hinge, then I think they're a real chance. But if it goes wrong, then where to then? Then they've got to purge. They've got to virtually start this list all over again, and we'll be talking about the fact that this group only won the one flag. I know they're hard to win, but they only won the one. Is that enough? So let's see if they're in love or not.
I really like that one. That might be my favourite one yet. As we move on to North Melbourne, can Clarko get the team to buy in defensively? That's the question. 18th for defence last season. They conceded 100-plus points in the first 11 games last season and 18 times for the year. The first 11 games they got scored against so heavily, 100-plus, 120, 130, and it happened 18 times last year. 18th for defence. Now, we talked about what do you call it, Rubal or whatever it was last pre-season about the offensive stuff and the way they want to move the ball. Well, they neglected trying to stop the opposition from scoring. So can he do it? If he can't, serious questions about the impact that the genius coach has had on the club, and that's the biggest question for North this year. Like it, and there's big opportunity. I mean, shouldn't be that hard, should it? Not that hard to want to buy in and defend.
Sheesh. Port Adelaide. Now, this is a difficult one because the guy's been in charge for about 5 minutes, right? But are Josh Carr's mechanics or his ideas or his motivational tools, all those things, are they better than Hinkley's? Like, they're both there, right?
And how do we judge that this year?
Well, I don't know. We just have to assume that Carr's the man, really, don't we?
Well, do we?
Well, it's half a handover. You'd think that he's setting things up. He's setting them.
So how are you going to judge? So on a good performance, Carr gets the credit. And equally, on a poor performance, Carr shares the criticism. And it's interesting on how we judge. I'm tossing and turning between who we judge and how we judge Port Adelaide this year.
Well, I just want to see. I want to see what's new. So if you're going to do this handover, you can't waste the year living in Ken's methods. They have to be Carr's. And you can have the assistance and the support of Ken. So what are they? What does it look like? We all know Horn Francis is about to go crazy. They got the smaller forward line. Lukosius looks terrific in there. Sin and Berry looked really good again on the weekend. The Butters injury is a concern. The defensive half still worries me. But when you do these sort of these awkward handovers, you don't get the new voice spike that the West Coast are getting.
Or Dean Cox.
This? New guy coming in, it's his show, right? They don't really get that. So what do you get, and what new methods do you see? So that's all that I'm looking to see. Has Josh Carr got something totally different than what they've always been to give them a different result to what they've always got?
Fair question. Richmond's pretty simple. Just how much pain and carnage is Richmond's full-scale rebuild going to inflict on the proud club, and how long can Adamuse survive if the losses keep piling up? That's as simple as it gets. How much? Yeah, we all think it's a great idea on paper, but is the reality far more severe than what it looks like on paper, and how much carnage will there be?
St Kilda. Is the follow me A grader from the last 4 drafts on this list? Is he there yet? We got.
What do you think? I think it's Filippo.
Well, we get more evidence in 2025, right? I'm not absolutely sold that it's Filippo. So these are the high picks. Nasai was pick 11 in 21. Mateus Filippo was pick 10. Darcy Wilson pick 18. And then obviously last year's Travalia and Taru pick 8 and 10. So they've had that middle first round, I should say, selection at all times. They can't continue to get that selection. So the pressure for me is to find out who is your absolute follow me guy. And if you haven't got him, do something with your selections or your talent. You might have to take a risk or two at the end of the season via the trade table, because you got to get those picks in the top 3, 4 or 5.
Yep.
If you can't get those, your club in an off-field sense is failing.
Middle of the road. That's where they've been for 10 years.
But it's not going to change with pick 10 or 12.
Well, that's the conundrum that they find themselves
Get aggressive.
Get aggressive. What, and tank?
Well, it would be a move. It would be something that would shift the course of the drafting haul. I think they've got to... We've talked about trading players like Max King before, but today's not the day to talk about trading because we're starting the season.
Well, and they just
extended
his deal for 6 years when they didn't need to. But anyway,
you still get a good deal done. Is it Nasaya? Is it Mateus? Is it Darcy Wilson? If it isn't, find it.
Very good question. Let's fly through a couple of others before we get to Harry Perryman. We're up to Sydney. Will Sydney's bold coaching change be justified? And can Dean Cox rebuild the Swans' reputation and take them the final step after their grand final humiliation? He wants to change the way they are going to defend, and he wants the Swans to be more resilient. He wants the hard edge back, and he wants them to be better in the contest. Will the coaching change be justified at the Swans? West Coast Kingy.
Are they at the bottom yet? And I think we find out in 25. They had some improvements last year, some contest work and some defensive numbers improved, but it's not really about the mechanics of how they play at the moment. It's, do they have the guy? And I've got my doubts. I think they've made some errors at the draft table. I'm not convinced that Campbell Chesser, who's a pick 14 in the 2021 draft, there were better options there. Ruben Gimby, he looks okay, but is he a top liner?
Yeah.
Elijah Hewitt, is he a B grade player, an A grade player? Where is he? And obviously we got this year's, or Harry Barnett. I don't know enough about his 200 centimetres. Harley Reid, everyone can see Harley Reid. I mean, he's pick 1. He's a given. Where's his support? So I just think they may have made a lot of mistakes that really are going to force the coach to go backwards to go forwards. So maybe they need to have a down year almost by design.
Are they at the bottom yet? Eagles fans, let us know your thoughts. And finally, the Western Bulldogs. How do they respectfully transition to a new voice and send Luke Beveridge off in the right way?
Send him off.
For me. Yep, it's time. That's the question for every club. You can get involved. 0433 98 11
just sacked
16.
Him in one line, that's it.
I haven't. I just.
Have you got any more notes on it?
There's a respectful way to do it.
Did you do any notes on it?
How many times can I share my thoughts over the last 5 years on the Western Bulldogs? It doesn't need any more information.
What if Sam Darcy can do what we're talking about, Riley Thilthorpe?
Well,
what if no Jamara helps?
He's going to do that anyway.
What if no Jamara helps Sam?
Yep. All right, the time is upon us. So how you going with that interview request?
Well, it's getting harder by the minute.